And good morning and welcome to Backyard and Beyond. Yeah, I have a couple recipes for couples and other people, but they are not necessarily new. They are very simple. I think they're very good. And that, what's your criteria for a good recipe? Of course, it has to taste good. That's probably the very first criteria. It probably should look good. And then beyond that, it's, very much up to you. I don't like one that has 20 different ingredients in it. Not necessarily limited to 5, but not a whole list of things. I don't like recipes that I have to run around town or go out of town to find some special ingredient. And for most of us, it has to not take very much time or special equipment. So if we're going to do a recipe for an almond bark candy and a dill pickle dip. If you think you want to write these down, you might get your paper and pencil handy. I should mention that the dill pickle dip was the one that I had at the chamber during the recipe walk, so you might have got to taste it, might have picked up the recipe there. And both of these recipes allow for a great deal of creativity. It's a starting point, and then from there on you can make it your own, whatever you'd like to do with it. So, and then in between there somewhere I want to talk about kitchen shears or scissors because I think they are the greatest tool. I have 2 pair in my kitchen, and I had 3 and I broke one because I use them for everything. We'll talk a little more about that. So, the first recipe for the dill pickle dip, and I think it is kind of unique because it's the dill pickle thing, and actually it's a replacement for, I don't remember if any of you remember doing the hors d'oeuvre where you take a whole dill pickle, wrap it up with some dried beef, and spread some cream cheese on it, on and on and on. And it took a lot of time. Looked great, took a lot of time. A lot of people loved eating it. Well, the dip is so much easier, so much faster, and you get the same flavor. And it also keeps pretty well. So with this, the starting recipe that I've used, and like I say, you can do lots of different things with it. It takes 16 ounces of cream cheese, and of course you could divide this in 2. If you're not going to have a very big group, I would suggest having this recipe and using only 8 ounces of cream cheese, because with 2 packages, 16 ounces of cream cheese, it makes quite a batch. And then you'll want 4 ounces of dried beef or corned beef. See, right away, here's part of that creativity. Which one do you prefer? 3 tablespoons of dill pickle juice and 6 to 8 tablespoons of dill pickle relish. Now, if you looked ahead, you could have made that with your green tomatoes, but otherwise you can just buy it on the shelf at the grocery store. 1 teaspoon of minced onion, and that can be fresh, or if you want to substitute the dried onion, remember that you're not going to use a whole teaspoon probably of that dried minced onion. And it's just a matter of letting that cream cheese soften it, mix it up with all the other ingredients, and you are done. Now, the creativity comes with, would you like to add some Worcestershire sauce? Would you like to add some garlic? Would you like to substitute sour cream and a little mayonnaise? Just make it your own. And of course, taste as you go. When we say 6 to 8 tablespoons of dill pickle relish, some people want that lesser amount, somewhat more punch with the dill pickle, so you add in a little more. Don't be worried about changing this a bit. And I have to admit, I didn't even measure the pickle relish very well. I mean, it was somewhere between 6 and 8 tablespoons, but it's one of those recipes that has a lot of leeway. So try it one way, and then use your creativity and your taste buds to decide if you want to do something else with it. Again, I'll repeat those ingredients: 16 ounces of cream cheese, 4 ounces of dried beef or corned beef, 3 tablespoons of dill pickle juice, 6 to 8 tablespoons of dill pickle relish, 1 teaspoon of minced onion. Just mix that all together and, of course, store it in the fridge. The other neat thing is, of course, you can serve it with crackers, or you can serve it with all kinds of veggies, or mix that on a tray. It looks really pretty. An easy thing to do, and something that, I'm not fond of dill pickles, but I kind of like this little dip here because with the combination, it kind of cuts back a bit on the punch of the dill pickles. And I have to say, in addition to Harrisdale having this at the Chamber, I think one of the other stores in town had a different version of it to taste for the recipe walk. So maybe you got to try 2 different ways of doing it. So that's the dill pickle dip. And by the way, I hope they don't mind my saying this, if you didn't get all or some of the recipes from the recipe walk, Chamber's very good about making copies, and you can go down, pick those up, and there's always lots of good, fun things. Well, the second recipe, again, this is not new, but again, I love the how fast it is and how creative you can be with it. And it's an almond bark candy, and you can use either the white almond bark. I think that come like a 22-ounce package approximately. Again, this is a recipe that you don't have to be real exact in all the ingredients. Or if you'd rather, you can use 2 packages of the white vanilla chips. Either one will work just fine. And then you'll need some chopped up nuts. And again, here's where some of the creativity comes in. You could use walnuts, you could use pecans. And the nuts that are kind of in right now, pistachios. You might want to try pistachios. And then in the recipe that I've been just starting with, we add craisins. Those are those dried up cranberries, and they're pretty as well as tasting good. And a little nutmeg. So we've got the almond bark, about 22-24 ounces, a cup of nuts, a cup of craisins, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. Of course, you need to melt the almond bark or chips, and it's easy to do it in the microwave. Just kind of watch it because it goes pretty fast. Or you can put it in a double boiler. Do you own a double boiler? I know there are a lot of households that don't even know what it is, let alone own one. But of course, it's a pan set over hot water, so you don't have to worry about burning the bark or melting too fast or curdling it or all those kinds of things. So you will also want to have a cookie sheet or a pan that you have buttered, or you can put down foil and butter it. So when you have the bark melted, you have all the other ingredients mixed in, you pour it out onto the pan, let it harden, and then break it up into pieces. Now, what are you going to add? I mentioned you could change the kinds of nuts or combine those. What about the fruit? Well, craisins aren't the only option. There are lots of other dried fruit. I think apricots, dried apricots, would taste good in this recipe. You could mix them, or I'm thinking, how about a combination of banana chips and chocolate chips as an addition? Chocolate chips wouldn't be melted, but a lot of people like bananas dipped in chocolate. Yeah, I think this would be a great combination. So be creative and make those combinations however you would like. Keeps well and looks nice on a plate with the darker like fudge and that sort of thing. So enjoy. If you didn't get those recipes and you need a reminder, just give me a call at KJN. Well, I wanted to mention kitchen shears or scissors. In the dill pickle recipe, it calls for that dried beef or corned beef. The easiest way to get it into smaller pieces is to use a kitchen shears. I don't know what I do in my kitchen without them. They usually lay out on the counter because I use them so much. Of course, opening packages is a very basic kind of thing. If you have herbs to chop up, it's great for snipping herbs. I sometimes put mine to the test and use it to cut poultry bones, although there are special poultry shears if you're going to do a lot of that, and it kind of maybe not be the best for your shears. I trim fat off of, for instance, a roast or other kinds of meat before I cook it. It's just irreplaceable. So if you don't have some of those, you could put that on your Christmas list. I tell you that you don't want something really cheap and lightweight because they will bend easily if you're going to put it to the test. And my favorite is the kind that comes apart on the fulcrum. You twist them and they come apart in 2 pieces. You can throw them in the dishwasher if you want to. They're much easier to clean, so I really recommend having that rather than the one that's permanently put together. So, nice addition to your kitchen if you don't have that, and like I say, you can always use another pair. So, hope you enjoyed those recipes. Hope you're enjoying this time of year, and especially yesterday and today. I hope you're enjoying the weather. And until next time, here's a thought. Everyone thinks of changing the world, but sometimes we don't think about changing ourselves.